Chief, are you being serious right now? You want me to marry you? The astonished Cynthia asked. Of course, I want to marry you. I am no longer a small boy. I see what I want and I go for it. So, what do you say? Chief asked. Despite the unending rumors in town circulating about Chief's previous partners, Cynthia excitedly screamed in affirmation to his question. Yes, 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 I will marry you, Chief, she replied. Her dream was finally coming to fulfillment. She would be married to one of the wealthiest men. She would ride in exotic cars and be able to afford whatever she wanted. This was her dream, and despite the rumors ongoing about Chief's previous partners, she didn't seem to care. It was being rumored that Chief had been married 4 times in the past. His first wife was rumored to be in Europe with his biological children, while the other 3 girls he married were all younger girls seeking fast wealth, just like Cynthia. One of them had become mentally unstable. The other had been missing for a while now, while the last girl he married, before meeting Cynthia, got sick and passed on. One of Cynthia's roommates related all the rumors to her, urging her to seek further counsel before agreeing to go on a lifetime commitment with Chief. However, despite everything her roommate told her, Cynthia would not believe them and instead tagged them to be rumors from people who were jealous of Chief's wealth and affluence. Few months later, Chief and Cynthia got married in the most lavish ceremony the town had ever experienced. On the day of the wedding, Chike, Cynthia's ex-boyfriend, cried his eyes out. Everyone who saw him that day said he cried like he was mourning the loss of a family member. Cynthia became the envy of so many other girls who wanted to be in her shoes, and she moved around town with so much pride befitting for a wife to a wealthy man. She quickly settled into marital life, which entailed basically living a life of affluence. However, one thing never changed. Despite being married to Chief and enjoying his wealth and affluence, Cynthia still kept to her rule of refusing to break dawn with any man. She had a separate room from her husband, and whenever he wanted her attention and companionship, she went to their marital room. After their romance performance, Cynthia would stand up from the bed and go back to her room, where she would lock the door and sleep off comfortably. If her husband wasn't happy with this arrangement and confronted her about this one day, Cynthia, what do you think you are doing? Why are you refusing to break dawn with me? What are you scared of? He asked her. Chief, it's nothing. It's just an habit that I am already used to. Do not think so much about it. She quickly dismissed his worries by giving him a kiss and dashing away into her room. As months went by in their marital journey, Cynthia began to notice things and some character traits she didn't initially notice. Chief was a party monger. He loved to host parties in his house. His friends, business associates, investors, and a lot of young girls would be present at such parties almost every other day of the week. At first, she was okay with it and didn't mind hosting the parties with Chief. But after a while, it became tiring. She would always notice Chief flirting with other women at the party in her presence. He didn't seem to think much of it, but she wasn't okay with it. Sometimes He would even bring the women into their matrimonial home and spend the night with them while she was in her room. Cynthia would cry her eyes out throughout the night before falling asleep and wake up with swollen eyes to meet a jewelry box from Chief, appeasing her for what had happened the previous day. She thought she could get all she wanted with money. But at last she wasn't happy, and she wondered if she had made the right choice by betraying Chike, her university boyfriend. Cynthia and the rest of her classmates had graduated from school. Every other person went on to build their life, while Cynthia stayed back in her matrimonial home with Chief, tending to unending party guests. She was beginning to get burnt out and needed an escape. I know I wanted wealth and influence, but I didn't think I would be unhappy with it, she thought to herself every day. She kept up with the success of her classmates online. Chike had gone on to do quite well. He launched a tech startup company in their last year of schooling and has now gone ahead to build a base in Lagos, Nigeria. He was doing very well for himself. Cynthia was following his company's social media presence and his personal accounts through a fake account she opened. She sometimes wondered if she had made the wrong decision, abandoning someone who cared for her deeply as Chike did. Cynthia and Chief's life went on as usual until one day she experienced something that made her almost go crazy. It was a bustling evening as usual. Chief was hosting a lot more of his big friends this time, but Cynthia refused to leave her room to attend to the guests. However, after a while, Chief sent for her. She struggled, dragging herself downstairs after applying a little touch of makeup to her face. Chief beckoned on her as he introduced her to his long-standing friend, Mr. Nino. They've been friends from childhood, and Mr. Nino was as influential as her husband. Mr. Nino, you are most welcome. I hope you're having a good time, Cynthia answered. Yes, I am, dear. Thank you for asking, Mr. Nino replied, smiling through his wine glass as he sipped on it. Please, do not lock yourself inside the house. Join us and have some fun, okay? He beckoned on Cynthia, who was about heading back into the house, and offered her a glass of wine from a bottle that was far away from the others. Cynthia noticed this little detail, but waved it aside. She collected the drink and gulped it down. She noticed that her husband and Mr. Nino kept on urging her to drink more, but she was done. Cynthia felt a bit dizzy and just wanted to sleep. She managed to stand up, but staggered and almost fell. Chief, her husband, immediately rushes up to her, assisting her from behind as he leads her into the house. As they approached the door to their matrimonial room, Chief opened it, urging Cynthia to go inside, but she refused. Although she was drowsy, she knew she didn't want to break dawn in that room. Her mother had the gift of manifestations through dreams. She woke up every other week, warning Cynthia not to ever break dawn with any man beside her. Cynthia knew how powerful her mother's dreams were and adhered strictly to her warnings. However, when she got married, she thought she could now break dawn with her husband. But her mother's dreams had not stopped, and so she had to keep up with it until her mother assured her of the passing of the looming danger over her head. Cynthia struggled for a while, insisting that Chief takes her to her room. But he overpowered her and lifted her in his arms, dumping her on the bed and tucking her in. Not long after, Cynthia had dozed off. Chief, seeing this, had a wicked grin to his face and quietly closed the door before leaving. A few hours later, Cynthia jolted up. Something or someone had woken her up, but she didn't know what it was. She continuously felt a tap on her shoulders while she was sleeping. It was gentle and then it became rapid. She woke up to some background music. It was Johnny Drill playing, and she knew that the party was about to be over. She quickly stood up and headed to her room. While she was about closing her door, she saw a young girl who had the same body frame as her stagger into she and Chief's bedroom. She was about to go and confront her, but decided against it when she recalled that Chief always sent girls to their room after every party. The young girl looked drunk and unaware of what she was doing. Cynthia watched her a little more before finally closing her door and going to bed in her own room. The noise had lessened. The sound of cars leaving the compound was heard. Finally, they've started leaving, Cynthia muttered to herself. She heard Chief's voice. He was coming upstairs. She stood up from the bed after hearing more than one footstep. She listened rapidly as she counted. There were 5 persons and they were all men. They all entered Chief's room and she didn't think much of it until she decided to go downstairs to pick up something from the kitchen to help her go back to sleep. And upon nearing Chief's room, she heard their conversations. She's still a young girl. Everything is intact. I have been monitoring her all these years we've been together. There's nothing to worry about, Chief spoke. All these years we've been together. Who were they talking about? Cynthia wondered. Was it her? The room was dimly lit, so she couldn't figure out the faces, but she heard her husband and Mr. Nino's voice as clear as day. Chief, this is your wife. Are you sure we can do this? One of the men asked. Your wife? Do what? Cynthia began to shake upon realization that the men were talking about her and intended to harm her with the consent of her husband of several years. The little girl, who had the same body frame as her, replaced her on the bed, but Chief and the men weren't aware. And because of how dimly lit the room was, they could hardly tell. The substance you put in her drink was too powerful. I have never seen her out like this before. All these young girls, wanting fast wealth, thinking they are wise, Chief muttered as he looked down onto the frame he thought to be his wife, Cynthia. Okay, we can take the most important parts now, before the break of dawn. Oga Nino spoke up, beckoning on the 3 other men standing beside him. Cynthia, in shock, almost fell to the floor. She had just found out that her husband had been an organ trafficker all this while. All those girls she thought he was sleeping with were not coming out of his room whole. She knew she had to run away to save herself. So from that point, Cynthia, with just her nightgown and her cell phone in her hands, ran downstairs. She made it to the gate and ran outside of the gate in the dead of the night. She kept on running as fast as she could. No, I refuse to die. I cannot die uselessly like this, she kept on murmuring to herself as she ran far away from Chief's mansion. She didn't know who to call. It has been over 20 minutes since she left the house, Her husband should have found out already that she was missing. She didn't trust the policemen around her. They were all friends with Chief. And at this point, she didn't trust anyone. Unfortunately, she didn't have a lot of phone numbers on her phone to call. The only number she still had stored in her head from way back was that of Chike, her university boyfriend. She dialed his number, and on the first ring, Chike picked. "Hello, who is this?" Cynthia, shaking in fear, replied faintly, "Chi, it's me." It was only Cynthia that called him Chi, so he knew immediately who it was. "Cynthia, is that you? What's wrong? Are you okay?" he replied, sensing the fear in her voice. Cynthia could not reply. She just kept on sobbing on the phone. "Share your location right now. I am coming to get you." Cynthia shivered as she climbed into Chike's car with his assistance. Chike silently drove through the streets of Lagos as Cynthia sobbed inside his car. She didn't say anything, neither did Chike ask, and as Cynthia quietly sobbed, Chike catches a falling tear dropping from his eyes. He too was heartbroken. Cynthia refused to stay in a hotel. She was scared of Chief's wild influence. Chike had no choice than to take her to his home, which was properly secured. She settled in one of his guest rooms, and in the morning, she came out of the room to meet Chike preparing breakfast. He called her to the dining table while they ate silently. As they both cleared the table, he looks at her and then asks, "Cynthia, what happened?" Cynthia looks up at him, and the memories came rushing back. She had a terrifying look on her face, which made Chike uncomfortable. He immediately rushes to her side, holds her in his arms, and looks down at her. "What is wrong, Cynthia? Are you okay?" Cynthia, letting go of his embrace, sits on the sofa, looks at Chike with tears welling up in her eyes. "I just found out that I had been married to a monster." The tears burst out as she couldn't hold them anymore. "Chike, I was married to someone who had the intention of hurting me from the very beginning," Cynthia replied as she recounted the tales of the incident in tears. She told him how she was able to successfully leave the house and hide in a safe place before calling him. "Chike, I didn't know who else to call. Every other person on my phone was connected to Chief in one way or another. You were the only person I could reach out to," she continued in between tears. "Thank you for coming to get me. You literally saved my life. If Chief had caught me, I wouldn't be alive right now." "I know I do not have the right to say this, Chike, but I believe I've been blessed with an opportunity to right my wrongs. Please, forgive me for how I treated you back then. I shouldn't have done what I did, and I regret it. I will continue to live with this guilt for the rest of my life. Please, Chike, forgive me." Chike looked at her in pity. "Chike, please," Cynthia continues as she goes down on her knees, looking up to him while rubbing her hands together, pleading. "Cynthia, please do not do this. Stand up. It's been ages already, and I have moved on long time ago. Please do not carry any guilt about. I have forgiven you, he told her. Cynthia stands up after getting the much needed reassurance from Chike and gave him a long hug. The both of them sobbed as they relaxed into each other's embrace. Few weeks passed and Cynthia remained in Chike's house. With his help, she was able to report Chief to a high-ranking police officer at the federal state. Chief tried to escape to Europe the day Cynthia found him out. The police officer caught up with him and he was arrested alongside his friend and major accomplice, Mr. Nino. The police officers found credible evidences against them, and with the help of Cynthia's testimony, both Chief and Mr. Nino were sentenced to life in prison. Chike helped Cynthia to start her life over by sponsoring her relocation to Canada. Cynthia was now a permanent resident in this new country. She served in her local church, offering mentorship to younger girls. She had seen enough of what greed and taking a shortcut could do to people, and so she used her time to make sure no woman around her loses themselves to greed. She remained single, focusing on her job, the church, and her friends for years. She would forever remain grateful to Chike, who now married with 2 kids, helped her back on her feet at a time she needed it the most. The moral lesson to learn from this story is that obsession over wealth and luxury can bring about danger and unhappiness, just like in the case of Cynthia, showing that greed can lead to serious problems. Secondly, kindness, willingness to forgive, and demonstrating the power of compassion can just save a person from the corners of death. Be kind today. Thank you so much for watching this story. I hope you enjoyed every bit of it. Thank you for liking, subscribing to our channel to help us grow, and sharing this story with your friends and family. See you in my next video. Bye!